Hello, I am the Script Doctor, and today I'll be taking a look at Batwoman. The premise for this series is quite simple. Batman has vanished and Gotham City is being overrun by crime as a result. The city holds a special event where they plan to shut off the bat signal permanently, only to be interrupted by Gotham's latest supercriminal, Alice. She monologues about how the city's latest team charged with their safety cannot stop her reign of terror, and proves this by kidnapping their lead agent Sophie Moore. When our main character learns of this crime, she abandons her training in the Northwest Territories and returns to Gotham to help find Sophie and prove to her father that she's ready to work at his private security firm. Will Kate rescue Sophie from Alice and prove herself to her father in the process? Let's take a look at the pilot and find out. Within the first 5 minutes, we are told through narration that Batman has been gone for 3 years, that the city has been divided because of this, and that the main character, Kate Kane, who is providing the narration, thinks Batman doesn't care about the people of Gotham. People are outside City Hall holding up signs that convey their support for Batman and to have faith. So why is the narration telling me that the city is divided when I can see it for myself? This is the definition of redundancy. Don't tell your audience something that you've already shown them. This is a visual medium. Let the images do the work and save the words for something visuals can't convey. We are told again that Kate's father started a private firm to protect the city because he felt the police were ill-equipped without the help from Batman. Are we shown that the police can't protect the city? No. Why? I don't know. I think it would serve the story and make the audience more engaged to see the city's finest struggle to fight the crime that has risen as a result of Batman's absence. Picture it in your mind. A hostage situation at a public school. The police have surrounded the campus, and the criminals inside are holding the teachers and children at gunpoint. The police are sweating, the hostage negotiator is yelling into his phone trying to meet the criminals' demands, and it's only a matter of minutes and one wrong move before someone gets killed. Out of desperation, the police turn on the bat signal. The light reflects off the clouds, but no one comes to help. They're on their own, and in order to save the hostages, the police are stuck having to give in to the criminals' demands. I'd say that's pretty dire. But instead of a cool and tense scene that conveys the state of Gotham, we're told in a flat narration that the police are overburdened. No evidence to support this claim, we are stuck having to take their word for it. In fact, aside from this protest outside of City Hall, Gotham comes across rather quaint. At this protest, Kate's father, who's given the title Commander, and his crows oversee the security of tonight's private event. The stepmother of Kate, whose name has not been revealed, delivers a flat speech which is more akin to, "Pull your head out of your ass, Batman's not coming back, so we should give up on him and celebrate this fact by shutting down the bat signal forever." Apparently, everyone in the crowd paid 10 grand each to hear this wake-up call and applauds the idea. But is that all there is? We're just listening to this woman berate Gotham for having trust in Batman, and we're not given any clue or plan as to what the city would do next. Her husband is the head of Crow's security, and she doesn't even suggest that they are a superior alternative to Batman. She doesn't even advertise that the reason the city is giving up on Batman is because he's not needed thanks to her husband's company. This scene is clearly a public relations stunt, but she's not doing anything that would publicly benefit the Crows. Is this not supposed to be an out with the old, in with the new moment? I don't even know. The banners on the building out front have Gotham on the top and the name Mayor Akins at the bottom. But what does that even mean in relation to this scene? The guests have paid 10 grand a plate to watch the city turn off the bat signal. But where is that money going? Is that to pay for the Crow's security? Is it to a re-election campaign? Is there a charity event to fund the police? There is no motivation presented as to why these characters are doing these things. Mayor Akins, however, has a different take on tonight's event. Instead of a good riddance attitude, he treats it as bittersweet, asking the people to bask in the glory of the bat signal one last time before it is cut out. Cue the introduction of the series villain Alice, who gives her own speech about how the Crows can't protect Gotham and that no one will be safe. It comes across as a counter-argument to a speech about how great and useful the Crows are, except Kate's stepmother, who was just on stage, did not give that speech. In fact, it is the villain that is the first and only one to bring up the idea that the Crows are the city's new protectors. She's spoken more about the Crows than the owner's wife, who had the microphone and attention of the whole crowd mere moments ago. What's really strange is that I'm seeing the wife here to be more foolish and crazy than the murderous blonde with too much eyeshadow, because it appears she's the one that is staying on script. Alice closes out her monologue by announcing how she's going to take one of their agents out from under their nose. That agent being Sophie Moore, who they lure away and capture with very little difficulty, knocking her out with a single strike.
That's a peddling.
What is even more strange is how that is all Alice does. She doesn't attack the guests. She doesn't even make an attempt to steal the money collected for this event. Of course, it is 2019, so the transaction was probably done online, but she doesn't even try to rob the function or the guests. Very curious. A missed opportunity for storytelling? Or an ulterior motive? Given the chaos just witnessed, if I was the mayor, I'd be really pissed off that this private security firm we've trusted to assist the police in protecting Gotham failed to do that very thing this evening. Invest in the Crows. We're the best and we can keep Gotham safe. Pay no attention to the 2 police officers who died at the event we were in charge of protecting. For some reason, the stepsister feels the need to call Kate about this event. We get a brief flashback that Kate and Sophie were knocking boots for a second, and then we cut back to Gotham the following morning, where Kate has returned to narrate how she has spent years traveling the world training with combat and survival specialists so she could join the Crows. That's cool. Why? What is motivating her to join the Crows? Aside from her love affair in the military academy, the only other flashback we get is when her mom and sister die. Is that the life-changing event that put her on a path to join the military? If so, how? If anything, given that this was a car accident, it would be more believable if she wanted to join a roadside assistance company to save people with car trouble instead of joining the military. Where is the connective tissue between this past event and what is currently driving Kate's character? When writing a pilot, you want to establish a character's wants but also a motivation for those wants. When you introduce a want, you need it to go hand in hand with an explanation. If it makes sense and is done well, that explanation adds depth to the character and allows the audience to understand what is driving their actions. That's how you create a compelling character. Think of it when it pertains to children. When they say they want something and you ask why, and all they can tell you is because they want it, do you really care for that reason? No, you don't. Because it is a want simply for want's sake. If you don't convey a personal value to a want, then other people aren't going to understand or care. And in order for any story to work, the audience needs to care about the characters. Why has she spent all these years training to become a Crow? We don't know. We do know why she comes back to Gotham. It's to rescue her ex-girlfriend. That's a good reason. A good motivation. Wow. It is a really good thing she's been traveling and training all those years and is able to help. Not contrived at all. So Kate narrates again that she needs to convince her father that she's ready to join the Crows. While she confronts her father, we get a not-so-subtle setup to the episode's climax with a movie in the park event. But one interesting thing to note, and I bet it was part of the reshoots, is how Kate's father behaves towards her. He welcomes her in with a hug and shows emotion with his embrace. He makes coffee for her. He doesn't have an assistant bring it. He shows concern with her health regarding veganism. Not going to get into that. And notices that she got a new tattoo. This is a really good example of a father that cares. In all his scenes with Kate, he's talking about her with her. Not talking at her, not talking down to her, and not pointlessly praising her. I suspect the writer is doing this to mask the exposition of Kate's character, but they've accidentally given us some depth with the father. They do drop the ball by referring to Kate as a female Bruce Wayne, not a good sign to reduce your character to a mere gender swap. They almost save it with Daddy Crow saying that she's got the potential to be something more than a spoiled rich kid. Daddy Crow ignores Kate's request to help him find Sophie, and we get a repeat of the flashback from a moment ago. But this time, it's an extended version. The flashback tells us they could be expelled for making out behind a shed, and then the two get caught doing so. We come back to the present where Kate narrates that she's on her way to Wayne Enterprises because they have surveillance all over the city. This raises a number of questions. Why would Wayne Enterprise have its own surveillance network on the city? It doesn't matter that Bruce is Batman. This is his company having a surveillance network. Cameras watching the street just because, with Wayne Enterprise logos on them. Seems weird. Why would Kate know about this network and not her father? If it is only built for Batman, why have it integrated with Wayne Enterprises? Kind of risks exposure of the secret identity. Kind of risks exposure of the system to employees of the company. Kind of doesn't make sense. Unless you're not creative enough to find an inventive way to get to the next act of the story. When we get to Wayne Enterprises, it looks like it's closed for business, so why would Kate think such a system will be active? Also, why bother sneaking in through a window discreetly when she could just break down the boarded up entrance or smash another window? I mean, she kicks open an office door after she gets in, so why the discretion at the start?
It just raises too many questions.
Well, she's not in there for a whole minute when she's caught by the head of Wayne's security, Luke Fox, a scrawny, cowardly figure who's an inch shorter than Kate and armed with a taser. As ridiculous as this situation appears to be, it gets worse when Kate pulls the whole "my cousin's the owner" card, as if we can't hate her enough at this point. What does Kate expect to gain from that? She's not Luke's boss, she has no impact on the company's success, She's just a distant relative. If I owned a company and any of my relatives tried to come inside acting like they owned the place when I was away, I'd be pissed. I'm almost impressed with Luke as a character until we see that he doesn't throw Kate out of the building, but instead takes her into a secured surveillance room and calls the cops. How convenient. For Kate, because of a carefully palmed paperclip, she manages to pick the lock, cuff Luke to the wall, and access the system with a very simple password. Alfred. Oh boy. Wayne Enterprises, a multi-billion-dollar company that rivals LexCorp, as well as Cord Enterprises, Queen Industries, and Star Labs, has the complicated secure password of Alfred. That's like having your address as a password. It's easily crackable and completely unbelievable within a universe where a rich kid grew up to fight crime dressed as a bat. This entire sequence is completely contrived. It appears that the Crows and Kate only know how to watch screens instead of hit the streets and look for clues. Why aren't we seeing the police and Crows knocking on doors, interviewing people, trying to gather any eyewitness information to help them find a lead on their missing person? You know, detective work. Instead, they're all standing around a room surrounded by screens and lighting as dim as they are, complaining about how they don't have any video footage of the kidnapping and are helpless to do anything about it. How are these supposed to be our heroes? They're not being active looking for someone they claim to care about, but instead are being reactive to the fact that the internet is down. And instead of going out to look for them the traditional way, using every other available resource, our hero goes to another internet hotspot to download footage from a company that shouldn't logically have a city-wide surveillance system in the first place. I can believe that Wayne Enterprises builds security systems and has one for their own building. I can believe that Batman would repurpose some of that secretly to cover spots of the city known for having a high crime rate, but covering the entire city? And having it accessible to anyone working at Wayne Enterprises? That is far too reckless for someone as prepared and obsessive as Batman. I would be much more impressed if we saw Kate examining the street where Sophie was kidnapped, heading to the buildings that were overlooking the scene and asking around if anyone saw anything. Because as of right now, the Crows do not know anything about Sophie's disappearance. They don't know that she was knocked off a building, they don't know that she was surrounded by a half-dozen goons, they don't know that she was thrown into a blue van. What they should have done was set up a perimeter around the area that night and not leave until they had questioned everyone they could. That is where Kate should have found her father, working the crime scene, not in his damn office. But instead of seeing that, we get groups huddled in a briefing room, listening to barely motivational speeches, looking at computer screens, and handing paper to coworkers. Nothing to convey any on-the-ground methods of finding a missing person. Nothing to show urgency. Just talking in rooms. Anyways, after downloading the Wayne security footage, Kate heads home instead of returning to the Crows' headquarters to pass along the information. I guess Kate's father is the type that takes a break from searching when one of his top employees goes missing. Well, that's compassionate and reassuring. But no, this is just another contrived moment to get Kate on screen with her stepsister and stepmother and dish out some exposition regarding the upcoming Movie in the Park event, as if you'd forgotten how painfully obvious it was the first time it was mentioned. So after that reminder, we get another flashback, this time of Kate being kicked out of the academy and her girlfriend dumping her. Now here's a question. How long ago was this scene? How old is Kate's character supposed to be? All we have is that Sophie joined the military and served long enough to leave and join the private sector as a security agent. How long would that typically take? 2 years? 5 years? 10 years? There's no context. We don't have a firm grasp as to how much experience Sophie has to warrant her position and favor with Kate's father. We also don't know how long it's been since Kate and Sophie were together at this academy. With Arrow, we knew the island was 5 years ago. With The Flash, we know that his mother was murdered 14 years ago. But with Batwoman, how long ago was her academy days? How long has she been training? That's needed information to understand the character in this context. How fresh is it in Kate's mind? There's a difference when something happens yesterday versus something happening last year. Time heals all wounds, but it doesn't erase the scars. Are they fresh or faded? Well, after this flashback, we return to what the writing staff thinks is a story, and Kate and the Crows learn that Sophie has been taken to an abandoned orphanage named Burnside that she and her sister used to sneak into when they were children. Which raises more questions. How would a family as wealthy as hers be so negligent to allow their children to sneak off to abandoned buildings in a city like Gotham? Their nephew's parents were killed in this city after coming out of a movie theater. There are supercriminals that require someone like Batman to stop them. In that context, Kate and her sister would be under armed guard 24/7. What type of background work was done when developing this show? Did they ask, what is the state of the city when Kate was a child? How did it change as she grew up? Did she ever meet or know her aunt and uncle before they were murdered? Did she grow up with a butler or maid like Bruce did? This is basic character background work. The next question is, how do you reconcile Gotham being safe enough for a pair of twins around 10 years old to sneak off to an abandoned orphanage, but also incredibly dangerous enough to the point where someone like Batman is needed to exist to hold the city together? Consistency helps create the foundation of a fictional reality. Otherwise, it is just contrived crap. So now that Kate has told everyone where to go, Daddy Crow orders a strike team to rescue Sophie, but Kate has vanished from the room and manages to get to the orphanage before the Crows. She enters by herself and encounters two goons. The first one with a sword that ends up burning himself by cutting a steam pipe, and the second with a pistol that lets off 2 shots 1 inches from Kate's face, and not only does it miss her, but it doesn't even give her tinnitus or discombobulation from such a sudden and loud noise. Her ears should be ringing like mad, and not only would that raise the stakes and risk for her survival, but seeing her stumble and try to power through it would be entertaining and engaging to watch. But instead, it's not even a factor and she takes him out with ease. Then she gets jumped from behind and fights off another 2 goons, one with a fire extinguisher and another with an iron skillet, reminding me of that 90s anti-drug PSA with Rachel A. Cook.
It's not over yet. This is what your family goes through!
The fight continues where Kate gets sliced in the shoulder but manages to hold down a man twice her size and 3 times her weight as she smashes a refrigerator door into his head multiple times until she is taken out with a wooden paddle.
That's a peddling.
This leads us into the obligatory expository confrontation between our hero and villain. Alice monologues about wanting to take down Kate's dad because he's a bully, and that the dad doesn't really love Kate, but her ex-girlfriend Sophie. This is incredibly irrelevant and is just stuff to eat up time, and all I can think about is, what's taking the Crows so damn long to get here? They're the self-proclaimed best, and Kate has been in this building for who knows how long. I mean, we just saw her get knocked out. She could have been down for a few minutes or a few hours. We don't really know. You know what would have been a better scene? If, as Alice begins her monologue, the building is stormed by the Crows. Have it become a firefight between her men and the Crows. Alice has home advantage, so the Crows are losing their agents left and right. Kate manages to break free of her bindings. After all, she got out of Wayne Tech handcuffs earlier, so how difficult is rope going to be? And she chases after Alice. The two have it out, but Kate, being somewhat injured and concussed, loses the fight and blacks out. This interpretation establishes that Alice is a threatening adversary, as she has well-trained goons and is prepared. It shows that she can hold a fight on her own, and it leads our hero into their lowest point at the mid-act break. But instead, Alice monologues, knocks out Kate again,
Oh, you better believe that's a peddling.
and tosses her on the front steps of an underground medical clinic run by her stepsister. How convenient. All of this happens before the Crows even show up. The response time is abysmal. I'd rather wait for the corrupt Gotham City Police Department. They may not do much, but they'll at least show up quickly and pretend to do something. We're halfway into the show, the mid-act turning point, the main character's lowest moment. But what is Kate's state of mind? Does she feel like she's failed? Is she challenged to give up? No, she's partaking in an exposition scene that's building up Kate's support system for the rest of the series. This should be the moment where she questions her abilities and is tempted to give up. She should be thinking, Dad was right, I wasn't ready to join the Crows. But we don't see her doubt. We don't see her struggle. We have nothing to empathize with, and this is a scene taking place in a medical clinic, a setting intended to heal, and there's nothing happening to convey that process other than an obviously bad stitching job on Kate's shoulder. But it's not over yet. Kate returns to the Crows' headquarters to pass along what she's learned from Alice's monologue, but Daddy Crow doesn't care about that. Instead, he immediately shows concern and relief that his daughter is okay, a little bit of anger that she was irresponsible, and instead of listening to the words coming out of his mouth, Kate goes ahead and turns his concerns around to accuse him of not caring about her and wanting her to be sent away. It's like they forgot to insert her lowest point in the previous scene and are wedging it in here. It also appears the writer forgot how old the character is supposed to be because she's acting like a teenager and not an adult. Kudos for them not bringing up the sexuality thing and instead making it more of a reminder about what her dad has lost, but frankly, we're not seeing that in the dad character. Kate is stating conjecture based on assumptions, and the last thing you want in a hero is someone that acts based on their conjecture and assumptions. This scene and the clinic before it should have been merged into one. Kate should have been found by the Crows and rushed to the hospital. Have the stepsister work there, and because of the lack of staff, allow her to stitch up Kate. Have the dad not leave her side and go through all those emotions right away. Have him show his concern for his child. have her defend her actions, have them argue over the choices she's made in the last few days, and define Kate's character flaw that she doesn't look before she leaps. Not only would it free up some much needed time for more important things later on, but it would be a really intense moment and hit that lowest point beat perfectly without it feeling like a paint-by-numbers contrived conflict. So Kate leaves, upset at the lies she told herself about her father, and heads over to Wayne Enterprises looking for Bruce. As for why? We don't know. What could Bruce Wayne do? From Kate's perspective, she doesn't know he's Batman, so where is the motivation to find Bruce coming from? For a show that uses flashbacks, they could have used one here. Have Bruce give her some advice or reassurance after the car accident. Establish some context into their relationship. So while she's assaulting the head of Wayne's security again, a real smart hire there, Bruce, she sees that Martha's pearls are in the wrong spot, fixes it, and opens up a secret passage to an elevator and chooses to get inside. She takes the elevator down to a Batcave that is underneath Wayne Enterprises. Kate slowly wanders in and gives no reaction to this discovery. We see nothing of her putting the pieces together in her mind, which is strange given how much narration we've been exposed to thus far. What we do get is a swarm of bats circling her as she spins around with her arms out, trying to ape quite badly a scene from Batman Begins. The bats lead her eyes to the bat suit, and her reaction is like a high school valley girl finding out she's only getting a Honda Civic for her 16th birthday instead of a Lamborghini. That's the reaction you leave us before a commercial break? A lame, wooden response to a fantastic, mind-shattering reveal? This should be something really difficult to process. Kate's entire perception of Bruce has changed. Kate sees notes about the accident that took her sister and mom and learns from Lukewarm Fox that Batman thought he'd save them with his lines before he went after the Joker, but miscalculated the reliability of a bumper on their car. It wasn't Batman's fault. The car was junk. That's right. Blame the car company for crappy engineering. So the Joker essentially killed her mom and sister, but Kate doesn't realize that in this scene. She doesn't even link them together. She's learning all of this pertinent information and her reaction is flat, virtually unresponsive, and not in a suffering from shock kind of way, but rather a disinterested kind of way. As Lukewarm Fox exposits Batman's anguish for failing to save members of his family, Kate reveals the Batman's gear. Now the stuff on the right makes sense, but what the hell is going on the left? We have a set of axes, a pair of kamas, in case Batman needs to do some farming in Japan, a couple of butcher knives, and a crossbow. These aren't weapons Batman traditionally uses or even needs. It's like the props department discovered an empty space and went, "What do we got in storage? Okay, throw it up there." But how does Kate react? Is it mind-shattering? Is it with excitement or awe? Is it... Whoa! Nope, it's Kate's. Whoa. She reaches for the grappler, and only now does Lukewarm Fox actually stop Kate from doing something. Not when she was adjusting the pearls, not when she was entering the elevator, but now. When she reaches for a toy in a Batcave, now is when he gets involved. Some head of security you've hired there, Bruce. Oh wait, he's Lucius Fox's kid, so it's a nepotism hire. This is what happens when you hire based on family and not merit. You get the CW's Batwoman. So Kate looks at the costume and tells herself to find her own way. I'm thinking the same thing, Kate. Get out of there. Go do something else. But she's looking at the suit and figures, my own way is to copy Bruce. She claims that people aren't afraid anymore. So Gotham is fine then. That's kind of a good thing. Oh wait, is she referring to criminals? Because right now it seems like she's addressing everyone, and if memory serves, the people of Gotham aren't afraid of Batman when they hold signs that read, Batman is Gotham. Kate wants Lukewarm Fox to fix the Batsuit, but he thinks the costume is literal perfection. But I have to agree with Kate here. Take a close look. The upper body proportions are all wonky. Is Bruce Wayne really Jeremy Howard from Galaxy Quest? The suit has muted colors. You can hardly see the chest emblem or the belt. And finally, what the hell is with that cowl? Is Bruce Wayne's head the size of a peanut? Is he Michael Cera on steroids? Look at that thing. It looks like a costume shop's knockoff of a Batman cowl. If you think that is perfection, you need to reevaluate your standards. But no, that's not what Kate thinks at all. She thinks it needs to fit a woman. Now normally this type of setup would be a scene break because it has a dramatic build. But it wouldn't be a CW show without a Deus Ex Machina phone call by a side character. In this case, it's Dr. Stepsister who found one of Alice's goons on her doorstep. What happened to this goon? How was he injured? Alice hasn't shown any behavior to suggest she'd hurt her own people, so how did he get there? Also, if he's loyal to Alice, why would he reveal anything about her plan? Did Dr. Stepsister drug him up? We end on another act break where Dr. Stepsister says she knows where they took Sophie. So she gives Kate this information, but not her stepfather? Not her mother? Are you serious? Yeah, Don't tell the police or private firm with ex-Navy SEALs and Green Berets where to find this person, but your stepsister that you haven't seen in years and have no idea if she is capable of saving Sophie or not. You know, the 80-pound vegan girl that was dropped on your clinic's doorstep, concussed and with a shoulder laceration. That's the one that is going to rescue Sophie. And where is Sophie being held? Where else but the event that's been blatantly mentioned twice thus far? I guess they're holding it in a dog park because that is a really small location. But that's only one part of what bugs me about this scene. The other part is the context regarding the show. I don't understand or know Gotham's situation at this point. We're told the city isn't safe, yet it appears to be safe enough to have a movie in the park event. Gotham was also safe at one point where a set of rich twin girls could sneak into an abandoned orphanage and live to tell about it. So why are we shown all of this security at a public movie event? All the visuals we are getting about Gotham do not line up with what we are being told about Gotham. You see, this is why the rule, show don't tell, is paramount. I want to believe that Gotham is dangerous, that it needs a hero in this series. But not once have we seen anything outside of Alice do anything in that city that would warrant a need for a security firm like the Crows. In fact, we've seen far more examples of how useless the Crows are, and I hope, like me, you're questioning as to why they're even a part of this show. So far, the Crows allowed 2 officers to die at their first security event. They have a poor surveillance system on the city that was easily disabled. They lose one of their point agents to the villain of the show. When they get a clue as to where she might be, they take forever to get there, allowing the criminals to escape. And now in this act, their leader, Daddy Crow, realizes during the event he's charged with protecting that there's a massive gap the size of a building in his security perimeter directly overlooking the park. Did he not make any plans? How is he figuring this out now? If I were the mayor of Gotham, I'd be demanding my money back plus interest for this level of incompetence. Villains don't seem as threatening and heroes as heroic when their opponents are massive idiots. If you want to send chills up your audience's spine, you have to put in the effort. Ideally, what you would want in this situation are guards on every floor of that construction site. Guards that are visible to the audience and establish control for the head of the Crows conducting his survey. You want to feel like this company contracted by the city for protection is capable of actually protecting the city. How you show the villain is a threat is not by making the Crows blatantly stupid, but by being more innovative and clever than those in charge. Have guards on every floor. Have the commander satisfied. Reveal that the guards have been knifed in the back of the head and are propped up at visible spots to look active. The bad guy has stolen the walkie-talkies off the dead guards and can listen in on their movements. The show has done one smart thing by having a Crow betraying the city by working for Alice, so you can establish that Alice's goons can pose as the Crow's agents and respond to any update requests to maintain the illusion. That's how you have a villain be a threat, by creating a false sense of security, not having the security company fail to provide adequate protection. But we don't get that. We get the lazy approach, which is that the Crows only put one guy at this construction site and it just so happens to be the one that's working with Alice. Some guy named Dodson.
Dodson! Dodson! We've got Dodson here!
Then, Daddy Crow sees Dodson park a van outside of the event, and instead of rushing over to ask why one of his security agents is at the construction site, doing his job, he just lets the mayor distract him with praise about the great job the Crows are doing with tonight's event, making Gotham look like the good old days. The good old days being metal detectors at park entrances. Does Daddy Crow order anyone to find out why Dodson abandoned his post and left a van by the park? Nope. He has to take this convenient phone call. That's far more important than investigating suspicious activity at an event under his protection. Luckily, it's Alice on the phone. She tells him about the bombs in the van, and he's thinking, damn, I should have had that checked earlier when it seemed out of place. Alice tells Daddy Crow that the van is armed, but she won't detonate it so long as he doesn't say or do anything. Then she tells him that Sophie is on a plank high above Gotham, and if she moves, she dies. Then asks him to pick one, Sophie or Gotham. What the hell is she talking about? Are we supposed to believe that Daddy Crow can actually do anything in this situation? She didn't properly outline the rules. What is he supposed to do? Stand by this van full of explosives until the movie ends and everyone goes home? Okay. Oh, what's that? Sophie is standing on a plank and if she falls she'll die? So all Sophie has to do is stay still? Where are the stakes? Alice has established that if 2 people do not move, nothing will happen. But you're probably thinking, script doctor, Sophie's on a plank, she could fall and die. Yes, she could fall and die, if she moves. But Alice has established that only if she moves will she fall. And given that Sophie is an experienced soldier and valued member of the Crows, she probably has the training and discipline to remain still in tense situations for a very long time. But then you're thinking, script doctor, there's still a van full of explosives by the park. Yes, But Alice said she's not going to blow it up so long as Daddy Crow doesn't say or do anything. Again, same rules apply. If Daddy Crow stays still, everyone will be fine. Do you want to know why this situation in the pilot doesn't work? It's missing something really important. I bet many of you can take a guess as to what that is. I'll give you a hint on how I would rewrite Alice's lines. Alice makes her call to Daddy Crow and says, "See your birdie high above on a plank? Keeping her up is water in a tank. But there is a hole the size of a pin, draining that tank of the water within. To save your birdie the bomb you must ditch, but I'll blow up the park with a flip of a switch. Stay at the park and the bombs won't pop, but once the tank empties, your birdie will drop." Do you see how that situation is different? That's right. I added a ticking clock. I have put Daddy Crow in an impossible situation. He now knows for sure that Sophie will die once the water barrel empties, but if he leaves to save her, Alice will blow up the park. Now we have a choice and pose the question to the audience, what would you do in that situation? But in this pilot we get none of that in this scene because the writer doesn't know how to establish or raise the stakes. So when Batwoman shows up, wait, I have to stop here. Luke actually made her the suit? Why would he do that? What does Luke have to gain in helping Kate? This episode has not established that Luke even knows what is going on with Kate and the Crows at this point. From Luke's perspective, he's seen Kate break into Wayne Enterprises twice, then break into the Batcave, and after witnessing those actions, he's just going to start making Batman gear for her? Is that some sort of hidden test Batman has set up for Luke?
Luke, I'm going to be gone for a while, and I'm putting you in charge of security. But if someone manages to break into the Batcave on your watch, just give them whatever they want. No questions asked.
There wasn't even enough content between Luke and Kate for us as the audience to believe he'd help Kate become Batwoman. They didn't have the time to explore it, but they could have if, like I mentioned earlier, they combined the clinic scene and the Crow's HQ scene into one. That would allow time for a scene where Luke could see the potential threat that Alice poses the city and be convinced by Kate that a new hero is needed. It could also be a point where Kate earns Luke's trust. Yes, Kate has to earn Luke's trust, not the other way around, because 1. Kate is the character whose actions have created conflict with Luke. 2. Luke has no obligation to do anything for Kate because 3. Luke doesn't work for Kate. He works for Bruce, so Kate needs to convince Luke to help her on this journey. Otherwise, it just looks like they're working together because the script said so. Returning to the so-called climax of this story, we see that Alice is only supported by a couple of goons. A bad writer will argue that Alice is overconfident with her plan, but a good writer will say that a truly dangerous villain would plan for either of the choices she gave her victim. Better to have extra goons and not need them than to need extra goons and not have them. Alice didn't even plan for the eventuality that Daddy Crow could send up a unit to try and save Sophie. So now the villain is less of a threat because of stupidity. Not as stupid as Daddy Crow, but still really stupid, and unintentionally too, because the only reason she has 2 goons instead of 10 or 20 is so Kate can take them out quickly enough for a one-on-one climactic fight. To paraphrase Robert Meyer Burnett, never put your universe or your situation before your characters. This show sacrifices the potential for a really intense fight scene with stakes for a quick and lazy situation. Would it not be more interesting to have Alice defended by 10 goons? Let's plot it out. Alice is watching Daddy Crow sweat by the bombs when suddenly one of her goons is snatched away by a line. But before she can process the situation, a batarang knocks out the bomb's trigger from her hand. Batwoman drops in and starts fighting off the goons. Shots are fired. A bullet hits the water barrel. The water drains much faster than the initial pinhole, and Sophie's time is cut in half. Alice scurries over to the bomb trigger, but Batwoman tackles her. They fight, but the remaining guards don't shoot because they could hit their boss. They instead leap in to help. Batwoman uses her bolos and batarangs to incapacitate the goons as she spars with Alice, getting the upper hand just in time to knock the trigger off the edge of the building the same moment that Sophie falls. Batwoman leaps over the edge, catches Sophie, fires a batline, and swings both of them to safety. Sounds pretty awesome and intense, right? Do we get something like that? Nope. We get 2 goons snatched away and Batwoman with a dramatic, slow entrance. Alice has a good minute where she could flip that switch and blow up the park, but instead of doing that, she gives a speech, punctures the barrel, finally triggering that ticking clock that should have been established 5 minutes ago, and the two engage in a poorly choreographed catfight that ends with Batwoman and Sophie falling off the building and landing on a well-placed mattress in a shack. To top it off, Daddy Crow, who couldn't possibly see all of this happening from his vantage point, has left the park and the van full of explosives to find Sophie in said shack. Way to protect the citizens, Commander. Then this little girl spots what she thinks is Batman, and now the whole park is going to be wondering, why the hell is he there? Did something happen? Was he just there to watch the movie too? To make matters worse for Crow's security, the Gotham Inquisitor writes a story about how Batman saved dozens at Robertson Park. Not the Crows, Batman. This is going to be bad for business. But Daddy Crow isn't thinking about that. He's on a mission to get Alice and Dodson, but when asked about Batman, he scoffs at the idea. What? That guy that saved my best agent and the people in the park when I couldn't? No, he's probably just going to die due to a lack of skill. We're the real heroes. We know how to protect this city.
But sir, we didn't have adequate agents at the construction site overlooking the park.
We're still better than Batman.
But sir, the one guard we had at the site was a double agent and we didn't know.
We're still better than Batman.
But sir, when we learned where Sophie was, thanks to your daughter, our response time was terrible.
We're still better than Batman.
But sir, Batman saved Sophie when we couldn't.
Well then why the hell don't you work for Batman then?
Sir, your wife convinced the city to shut down the bat signal and he doesn't have a secondary contact.
We close off the final act with Kate learning that the woman she came back for got married to a guy, revealing that Sophie was a lesbian until graduation. Real classy, CW. Real classy. Then we get a reshoot scene where Daddy Crow explains that his entire actions regarding Kate was to protect her from danger because she's all he has left. But now that Sophie's returned thanks to Batman, he's ready to hire his daughter. Why? Where did this line of thought come from? As far as Daddy Crow is concerned, aside from his top agent returning, nothing has changed between him and Kate in the past 24 hours, so why is he offering her a job? I guess it's because he's down one agent thanks to Dodson's defection and needs to fill that job quickly. There's no rational reason for him to offer her a spot on his team. We close off with what the writer thinks is a twist, which is that Alice is really Kate's thought-to-be-dead sister, Beth, who for some reason doesn't want to return to her family but rather convince her sister to rule Gotham by her side. Who cares? Batwoman is a terribly written pilot. It lacks effort and character, and the world building is nonsensical. We are only told Gotham is divided and in need of a hero, yet we see nothing to indicate as such. We don't see any car thefts, muggings, bank robberies, no organized crime, no drugs, nothing. We are told the police are ill-equipped to protect Gotham City without Batman, so Kate's father starts a security firm. Except, who is paying for this firm? It does not appear to be free. It most likely is under contract with the city, which means tax dollars are going to a private law enforcement institution to supplement a lack of funds and resources in a public law enforcement institution. Think about that premise. Gotham cannot afford to invest in the police to protect the city, so they invest in a private firm to protect the city. They can find money for a private firm, but cannot find money for their own programs. And the private firm is supposed to be the good guys in this? I know what a lot of people will say. Well, that's the government for you. And you know what? I can believe that. But also, people aren't always that stupid when it comes to local municipal politics, and when a dumb decision like that is made, the ones responsible are voted out. Not always, mind you, but more often than one would think. I bet you the citizens of Gotham have figured that logic out, and is probably why they are still hoping for Batman to return, because Batman didn't charge for his services. Not only that, the Crows themselves are utterly useless at their job. So useless that Batwoman has to come in and save the day when they can't. It would be far better for the city to cancel their contract and pump money into the police. The results may be the same, but at least they're not lining the pockets of some incompetent security firm. Then there's the character's motivation, or lack thereof. Why is Kate interested in a military career when she's from such a wealthy family? Why does she want to join the Crows security firm? These are the questions you need to ask when you're a writer. It's not enough to give a character wants, but also why they have those wants and how they pertain to the story you're trying to tell. This is how you take them from one-dimensional to three-dimensional. You don't just stop at the main character either. You do this for every character in your story. For starters, you could tell us Daddy Crow's name without us having to Google it. Same goes for the stepmother. How about with the villain? Why does Alice want to take down Daddy Crow? He's a bully? Where does she get that information from? We've only seen him interact with 5 people, and 2 of them are his family members. Is Alice paying her goons? If so, with what money? She can't pay them from her trust fund because that would reveal to the world that Beth is still alive, and she hasn't robbed any banks or events, so how is she retaining these goons? Why does she want to rule Gotham alongside her sister? Why not by herself? How often do siblings like to share? But the most important question, what is Alice's message and method that has convinced people to join her conquest? We need some semblance of that from the start. We need to know what those that side with Alice have to gain by being with her. Batwoman is a terrible, lazy, idiotic collection of bad ideas that doesn't resemble anything close to a story. This pilot tells you next to nothing about this world, how it functions, and why it is the way it is. This script should not have been filmed, let alone purchased. It appears that this was only produced because it has a female lead, but that doesn't mean it gets a pass when it fails in all other areas that make a story great. Characters drive story. If they're not defined and compelling at the start, then the audience isn't going to be invested in their journey. Batwoman fails to achieve this paramount goal. Superficial actions do not make up for a lack of quality. If you give us stories about heroes who don't face conflict, don't struggle with obstacles, don't show any flaws, and win through contrived methods, then your audience is not going to like it. And as we can see here, the audience does not like Batwoman, and neither do I. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have anything to add to this episode, please leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and never forget, it all starts with the script.